These flowers are accepted to be the world's most exotic and fascinating flowers. The unmatched ornamental value of these orchids account for a multi-million-dollar business. Orchid cultivation is very easy, unlike other plants. In this program, we will deal with the process of orchid cultivation. Orchids belong to the family Orchidaceae. They are highly specialized plants and they are the largest group of flowering plants. The orchid family consists of about 17,000 species. It is found abundantly in the northeast India, the region with diverse climatic conditions and topography. The name orchid has come from a Greek word orchis, meaning testicle. The name is given by the Greek philosopher Theophrastus.
Very big misconception is that all orchids are parasitic. So here I want to tell everybody that it is not so. They are epiphytic, they are not parasitic, and they take all the nutrients and the required things which they require from for their growth and flowering and all these things from the air.
The orchids are divided into three groups. Epiphytic orchids. They perch on trees, rocks or stones by the roots where a little humus or decaying matter has collected. Terrestrial orchids. They grow in soil. They have tuberous or fibrous roots and creeping stems or rhizome. Saprophyte orchids. They are herbaceous plants bearing small flowers. The best place to grow orchids is to build a low-cost frame or orchid house. The alignment of the house should be in the north-south direction so that the orchids can easily catch the morning sun. The west side of the house should be shaded by trees or creepers, which sheds leaves during the winter, giving more light to orchids. Benches and horizontal bars should be provided in the orchid houses. The floor should be earthen so that it can retain water. Special attention should be given in order to protect orchids from excessive rain. A good roof for shade is important for orchids. Depending on the species, the requirement of the light varies. Some orchids require continuous full sunshine to flourish and flower, while others die under such a condition. Usually, the shade should be intermittent or droppled. Morning sun is preferable than evening sun. East-facing sites are more favorable for the growth and development of the plant. There are two types of vegetative structures found in orchids. Monopodial. The orchids that do not separate new growth each season and do not have rhizomes. The single stem increases in height throughout life. Examples: Vanda, Eridis, Rhine hostilis, etc. Sympodial. In sympodial types, extension of the rhizome from the basal part makes a separate new growth, and each new growth produces its own set of roots. It has more than one stem, generally thickened and bulbous, called pseudobulb. They store food, water, and are capable of withstanding a drought.
As far as these
All terrestrial orchids, including pseudobulbous species as well as epiphytic groups, are included in the sympodial group. There are some climbing orchids, example Vanilla arachnis, and some species of Vanda bear climbing stems.
Basically, we are growing these dendrobiums for commercial purpose. We are growing them for the cut flowers. So what do? We receive the dendrobiums from South India and Singapore. We place it on coconut husk so that once we spray anything, water or pesticide or fertigation is given, the water is easily drained out from the coconut husk, and in addition to that, it gives an anchorage to the root system. So once we place the dendrobiums, the next step is we put in a basket. This is made of plastic. We put in a basket, place it this way, and the point to be remembered here is it should be very much tight. And this coconut husk is changed every 6 to 7 months. And then once this is done, we place it in the bamboo structure.
This is Dendrobium. It is an epiphytic orchid and this is pseudobulb.
And they act as
A new plant develops from this small bud. It grows and gives rise to leaves. This is called a spike, which gives rise to flowers. The orchid has leathery, succulent leaves which store water. The roots of epiphytic orchids are very curious. They are covered by a whitish, spongy and pulpy coat called velamen. They protect the inner conductive tissue of the root and absorb water from air and has the ability to cling to any surface. Rhizomes are found in sympodial types of orchids and are actually a primary stem from which a secondary stem arises.
Now let us look at orchid flower. Why it is so beautiful? Because the orchid flower has a very complex structure. The calyx and the corolla, that means the sepal and the petal here is of same color, and the outer part of the flower, these three they signify the calyx or the sepals, and the inner hole, that is this two and this one, gives the corolla. Now in the corolla, if we look at the corolla, the third corolla is folded to form a kind of lip, and this lip structure actually extends to form a spar. This is the spar. Female reproductive structure basically is here, and if one observes very carefully, then they will see two teeth kind of structures here, specifically in this flower, and they are the pollinia, in which the male reproductive structures are born, the pollen grains. Okay, and in orchid we don't say pollen grains, we say pollinia, because they are formed in millions. If you look very carefully, then you will see that there are some hair kind of structures here on the third petal, which basically is the female reproductive structure of the plant, and this is called the stigma. What happens when an insect, bee, comes to collect nectar, which is here, somewhere here, on the lower part of the flower, which is called spar, and spar is the extension of this third petal. The insect lands here. When the insect lands here, it deposits the pollen grain that it has collected from other flowers and goes inside to collect nectar. It brushes against this part of the flower, which is the male reproductive structure. When it is ready, gives rise to millions of small pollen grains, which in orchid is called pollinia.
Orchids naturally grow on trees. Regular watering keeps the sac wet and moist so that the orchids get food material easily at the initial stage.
These are terrestrial orchids. This basically grows in the pots in a planting medium. We have seen the epiphytic orchids, they used to grow in some rotten woods, coconut husks and other planting material, but here the planting material is quite different from those because these are all terrestrial orchids, they basically grow in the ground. Here we have the planting material. In orchids, we don't use soil. So basically, it is a soilless planting medium, and planting medium is mixed is a mixture of leaf mold, dried cow dung, and river sand. In the ratio, if you take 10 kgs of leaf mold, then you take 5 kgs of cow dung and 5 kgs of river sand, and mix them thoroughly so as to make the whole material very porous, which does not allow any water to stagnate.
The planting material is treated with Bavistin. 2 spoonfuls of Bavistin is mixed with 10 liters of water and the planting material is drenched in Bavistin solution in order to kill soil fungus. Hard-wearing material like broken bricks, trees, fern roots, charcoal, etc. are used for potting materials. In this case, broken bricks are used in the first layer, followed by charcoal and leaf molds on the top.
After 1 year, after the orchid has been planted, the plant starts growing vegetatively, and it gives off extra shoots like it has done here. If you can see, these are extra shoots. From time to time needs to be removed, and we remove it by basically taking out the plant and then separating the new plants and then repotting them in fresh pots.
This is Paphiopedilum insigne. It is also called lady's slipper. These are sepals and this is a petal. Unlike epiphytic orchids, here the 2 petals are fused to form a lip, which forms a hollow and gives a flask-shaped structure. This is also another variety of terrestrial orchids. This bulb-like structure is called a pseudo bulb. It is the storehouse of food for the plant. From the top of the pseudo bulb, the leaves come out and a new plant is produced from the side of the pseudo bulb. The use of fertilizers depends upon the type of orchid and its status of growth. The fertilizers vary from organic to inorganic. Organic fertilizers are cow dung, commercially produced fish, blood, seaweeds, and even diluted urine. Inorganic fertilizers come under many brand names, but they all contain nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in different proportions. A number of trace elements like manganese, zinc, iron, boron, and molybdenum are also included in the mixture. Fertilizers high in nitrogen relative to other elements promote growth, while those with high phosphorus and potassium content promote flowering.
Another important point of orchid is regular watering. Watering should be done twice in a day, once in the morning and once in the late evening, and care should be taken in order to see that water which is poured in the pots do not stagnate in the pot, but flow away from the pot, and planting material remains moist.
The aim of watering is to create a humid environment. Favorable moisture conditions during active periods, especially when new leaves and roots appear, result in good growth. However, rainwater is the best. Good ventilation is essential for growing orchids. A closed place encourages fungal infections. Therefore, a light breeze is ideal for growth and vitality of orchid plants. Air movement has a drying effect, which keeps the probability of fungal infection low. But at windy places, the orchid should be protected from the drying effect. The requirement of temperatures for orchids varies from species to species. It is classified into warm orchids, which require 15.5 degrees centigrade to 25.5 degrees centigrade. They are Phalaenopus, Vanda, Rhynchostylus, and some Dendrobium species. Intermediate orchids which require 13 degrees centigrade to 18 degrees centigrade. They are Laelia, Brassavola, Oncidium, Miltonia, etc. Cool orchids which require 10 degrees centigrade to 13 degrees centigrade. They are Cymbidium, Paphiopedilum, Dendrobium, Odontoglossum, etc.
This leaf spot is a disease. It is caused by fungus, and the damage of this, you'll see that this spot will increase in size, and then later on it will extend to the whole leaf, and the whole leaf will become black. So in order to control this disease, we spray this Bavistin by mixing 2 grams of Bavistin per liter of water, and when it becomes solution, we spray that solution on all the leaves so that it will prevent the attack of the fungus causing this leaf spot disease. Leaf blight disease attacks first at the tips or in the margin area of the leaf, and then the blackening will spread slowly to all over the leaf surface. You can see now that this portion has become black, and then this has become brown, and then this becomes yellow, whereas this is still green. So the disease is spreading from the tip downwards and will cover the whole part of the leaf. So in order to protect from this disease, we can use mancozeb fungicide, and we can use 2 grams per liter of water, and then spray that solution of fungicide all over the leaf surface so that it will kill the fungus whenever it comes to the leaf.
For example, caterpillar snails, we go for the spraying of Echolux at the rate of 2 ml per liter of water. That is when we spot the insects. Otherwise, there is not much of diseases or pests observed so far in the dendrobiums.
For the prevention of pests, usually a mixture of Bavistin and Rogor are spread. This Bavistin will prevent fungal infection, whereas the Rogor will prevent insect attack on the plants. Orchids require a certain period of rest. Drying and giving extra circulation of air and light arrest vegetative growth and induce flowering. Multiplication of orchids is not easy. In the case of dendrobiums and other similar orchids, clumps can be divided into several parts and grown separately. The old flowering bulbs of dendrobiums and cymbidiums can be cut into pieces and grown in a damp medium. The tops of Rhinanthus, Vandas, etc. may be cut with a few roots and planted separately. Some orchids produce young plants on the flower stem. They can be cut and grown in a proper medium. This is an epiphytic orchid. These are called capsules. Inside this, there are seeds. When the capsules ripe, they rupture and release hundreds and thousands of seeds in the air. The seeds are devoid of endosperm and hence cannot grow like ordinary seeds, but can be grown in a cultured medium under controlled conditions.
In nature, very few germinate when it falls. It requires this mycorrhizal or symbiosis, association. So that's why they don't germinate well. But in vitro, when you provide the artificial media, we call it, or nutrient, you can easily germinate. And here you can get 100%, like almost 100% germination. So this for the orchid, after subculture and thin it out like that from that so many in a flowers, you can get a healthy shoots of this like this. Then this can be planted to the pot, and that is can be easily established.
The orchid family has inexhaustible varieties and has outnumbered many species. Orchid cutflower has emerged as the leader in national and international markets. Their spectacular flowers, brilliant colors, delightful appearance, myriad shapes and sizes, and long-lasting quality have greatly contributed to the economy of many developing nations.